Hello everybody, welcome to Diversión con Vinilos, Fun with Vinyl. Well, today I'm going to do my first show in English. Why is that? Well, the reason is that I have seen a challenge on different YouTube channels entitled Prog Vinyl Tag 2021, and well, I like it, the idea, and as all the videos that have been published on this tag are in English, it would be strange for me to do it in Spanish, as I usually do in my programs. So, well, let's do it in English. So, for my usual followers, you can have the subtitles in Spanish and also the subtitles in English, because my English is what it is. So, let's go. Well, what are the vinyl tags? The vinyl tags are challenges for the YouTube community in which a series of questions are thrown about our record collections, and the objective is to spread the music in physical format, especially on vinyl. And normally these are challenges about music in general, but from a time to now thematic tags are also appearing, and in particular I have come across this one dedicated to progressive rock, which is a style that I really like. So, well, let's go to this vinyl tag about prog. 20 questions from the Prog Vinyl Tag 2021. Well, the first question is, what is the album that got you into prog? Well, there are several candidates here, but I have picked up this Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. This is one of the first records I listened to without being aware of the style, but it impressed me a lot because it was, when I first heard it, a totally different type of music from the more conventional pop or rock that I listened to in my youth. Then later I found out that this was progressive rock, and then I saw the light. Second question, show an album with 4 or less songs. Well, here I'm going to choose this Hergest Ridge, which is Mike Oldfield's second album. Well, actually I could have chosen any of his first 4 albums, since they all have only 2 songs, one on side A and one on side B. But I have decided on this Hergest Ridge because perhaps it's less known than their first and third albums, that are Tubular Bells and On My Down, but nevertheless this is a very, very well done job with many sonic contrasts and very inspired melodies. Third question, show an album on the Vertigo label. Well, this question has been a difficult choice because all the vinyl records that I think I have from this label are by musicians from outside the progressive style. Well, I thought initially to choose this Love Over Gold from Dire Straits, whose song Telegraph Road, you can see Vertigo label, is the closest that Dire Straits have been to progressive rock. Well, but in the end, I have preferred to stick to the canons of the genre, and finally I have selected this classic Octopus, the 4th album by the English band Gentle Giant. You can see Vertigo label, and you can see it here also in the CD. Okay, perhaps in my opinion is the masterpiece of this band, a band which in my opinion has been also less recognized than it deserves. Next question, show an album with epic keyboards. Well, here I'm going to go to another CD, sorry. But if there is a keyboard wizard, that is Rick Wakeman. And of course, his records are full of epic keyboards, especially those from his solo career. And I think that one of the most representative is this, The Six Wives of Henry VIII, his second studio album, released in 1973. That is a concept album based on his interpretation of the musical characteristics of the wives of Henry VIII, and of course it is based on the multiple keyboards and synthesizers that Wakeman uses at the different tracks. So, is this prog? Is this prog? An album that is this prog? Well, I have chosen Supertramp. With Supertramp, it always seems to me that there has been this discussion about whether the music they made falls within the progressive or not. It is clear that in their last albums and in the most commercial ones, they were quite oriented towards mainstream pop rock, but that is not so clear in their first albums. And among them, this great Crime of the Century, his third album, and their first commercial success, I think that this album that can fit perfectly into prog, but there always has been some discussion about that. I don't know if it will be prog or not, but it's certainly a masterpiece. Next question, show an album from an artist or band from Germany. Well, here, Germany has had always an intense activity in progressive rock, although almost always from more experimental areas and from proposals associated with other genres such as electronic music. It is precisely from this area where I have selected this album, Stratosphere, of one of my favorite bands, Tangerine Dream. This is a classic album of this band, perhaps closer to electronics than to progressive rock, but that still contains a great mix between acoustic and electronic instruments, complex development, but with accessible melodies. A very nice job, no doubt. Show an album from an artist or band from the UK. Well, this is a strange question, as the vast majority of progressive rock artists are from the UK. So almost any album I'm showing here would meet the requirements. Anyway, let's choose one. I have chosen an album that, in addition to being by an English band, like it is Genesis, includes references to England on the album. This album is Selling England by the Pound. For me, the best Genesis album and one of the best in all progressive rock in general. Show a prog album from an artist or band from North or South America. Well, North America can be easier for me, although I am recently discovering the prog bands in South America, and there are very, very interesting proposals. My choice here is, another CD, is this Dream Theater. In particular, my favorite album of this metal prog band, that is Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, published in 1999, a conceptual album that continues the story initiated in Metropolis Part 1, a song from their album Images and Words. Well, this is a great album with a great quality of music and inspiration in the lyrics. We are here dealing with a mix of hard rock, classical music, gospel music, and also progressive rock. It's really amazing. Question number 9. Show a prog gateway album. One album that you would use to introduce someone to the style, to the genre. Well, in this case, I have this question quite clear. Any Camel. Any Camel record could do just fine. I am going to choose this Moon Madness, and I have chosen Camel, and particularly this album, because Camel, I think, that has a unique style in which complex developments and rhythmic and harmonic experimentation do not prevent their music from being very melodic and very beautiful. This makes, in my opinion, an excellent gateway, an excellent introduction for someone that is not used to progressive rock. Show an album with Bill Bradford on drums. Well, that's not easy, as Bill Bradford appears with a lot of bands and also in multiple collaborations. So I am going to a classical choice. This Close to the Edge by Yes. This album is the last one in which Bill Bradford appears before he left the band to join King Crimson. In fact, he didn't participate in the tour that followed this album. Anyway, his intervention on this work are really great, with an extreme resonance that gives the percussion a leading role, and also using irregular rhythms and changes of tempo that makes this album one of the most original works in classic progressive rock. Next, show a concept album. Well, concept albums are quite frequent in progressive rock. Telling a story is a way of going beyond the songs and creating an album unity. There are a lot of examples, but I have chosen this, for me, a great concept album that is maybe in the threshold of prog rock. That is this I, Robot from Alan Parsons Project. The album is inspired by Isaac Asimov's stories about robots, although it is not only the story but also the philosophical concept about the decline of men with the rise of machines. Okay, show a female prog artist or a band with a female lead. Well, female artists are regretfully not very common in prog, but there are some great exceptions, and one of the best ones is Annie Haslam, the lead singer of Renaissance, and one of their best albums is this Scheherazade, an extremely beautiful concept album in which the powerful and flexible voice of Annie Haslam really stands out. It's a beautiful album filled with lots of classical piano and vocals. Next, show a prog solo album, someone who is in a prog band and release a solo record. Well, I have selected Under Stars by multi-instrumentalist John Mitchell. Actually, from Lonely Robot, that is the solo project of John Mitchell. Well, John Mitchell, who is this guy, is a musician who has played in groups like Arena or Frost, and in recent years has started doing solo work, a solo career. And in this solo project, he has, that is called Lonely Robot, he has released 4 albums until now, and this Under Stars is that is published in 2019, is the third one of this solo career. Show your favorite Roger Dean cover artwork. Well, here I could have chosen any of the many artworks that Dean developed for years. For example, this extraordinary cover for Yes songs, not only in the here but also, let's see, wonderful. It's really a beauty. Okay, but I finally have decided for other one that is the debut album of Greenslade, a less known prog band that published their debut album that is also named Greenslade. I think that this was in 1973. It's a very nice album, and of course with the illustration of Roger Dean that are absolutely beautiful. Show a prog album released in 1971, that is 50-year anniversary. Well, here I'm going to choose Tarkus, although there are a lot of very good prog albums that were released in 1971, so it can be quite difficult to make a choice, but maybe one of the greatest albums of the year was this Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Tarkus. This is really a classic and a landmark in progressive rock history. It's an extensive 7-part suite that goes from moments of absolute tension to flowing melodies, and especially the first minutes of the first song are an absolute madness. Well, it's a masterpiece of progressive rock. Show a live prog album. There are real gems in live progressive rock records, which proves that the complexity of the genre was not a studio artifice, but was that we are talking about musicians with great instrumental expertise. Well, I'm going to repeat the group. I'm going to go again to Emerson, Lake and Palmer with one of his most famous live albums, that is Pictures at an Exhibition. That is also of 1971, so it could also be entered at the previous question. And well, this is a magnificent adaptation and reinvention of the Mussorgsky's classic work, and I like it not only because it is a great live show, but also because it is a unique album. There is no studio version of this work. Well, show the last prog album you purchased or were gifted. Well, I have to say that nobody gives me prog discs, so I usually have to buy them by myself. Well, so anyway, the last vinyl record I have purchased was this one, Xenogul, the same name, the band and the album. And this is the first work of this progressive band from the north of Spain, published in 2007. And this band makes a very, very original progressive rock, a music that draws so much from the progressive tradition of the 70s, but with its own language that includes folk music from the north of Spain, a rich and original instrumentation, and a good dose of innovation and experimentation. So it's a highly recommended album and a highly recommended band. Show a prog album released within the last 25 years. Well, here I have chosen a classic band, but that has released an album recently, that is Banco del Mutuo Soccorso. Well, Banco del Mutuo Soccorso is one of the legends of the great Italian progressive rock. Well, this band, without the presence of the former leader, the late Francesco Di Giacomo, well, they few venture that would re-emerge, but they have. After 25 years, so since 1994, they haven't published anything. Expectations were very high on this Trans-Siberian work released in 2019. The result, well, music of the highest quality and inspiration with a clearly progressive sound, but with a very, very modern treatment. Show a prog album with an incredible guitar solo. Well, there are so many incredible guitar solos in progressive rock. And one of the ones that has always obsessed me is the solo of the song Drive Home that is included in this Steven Wilson album, the Raven That Refused to Sing. Well, this is a magnificent album, and in this song includes a spectacular guitar solo that is improvised by the great guitarist Guthrie Govan. Absolutely amazing. What prog album is at the top of your want list? Well, my want list is quite extensive, and the problem is that there are some classic prog works that are quite difficult to get in vinyl at a reasonable price, or at any price. Well, at the top of that list could be the Tool's masterpiece, that is Lateralus, an amazing album that I have not managed to find anyway in vinyl below 75 euros. Of course, in CD you can find it at better prices, but in this case I want the vinyl version. So I will have to wait until I find some deal, or if you know some place where I can find it cheaper, please tell me. Well, and that's all. It has been very interesting to review my prog collection to answer this challenge. It is very gratifying to review the records you love from different perspectives, that is answering these questions. Well, and this is it. I hope you have understood some of my awful English. Well, anyway, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. The videos are mostly in Spanish, but in some of them I am including English subtitles. Thanks for watching this video, and see you in the next show. Bye.